When the lights of Seoul began to dim and the streets grew quieter, Jin found himself standing before a familiar door, the same one he had walked through countless times as a teenager. But this time, the feeling was different. The world knew him as the dazzling global superstar, the worldwide handsome of BTS. Yet in this silent moment, he was simply Kim Seokjin, a son returning home. He didn't call in advance. There was no manager, no camera, no announcement. Just Jin, carrying a small bag, a simple hoodie, and the weight of everything he had experienced since his debut. As the door creaked open, the faint sound of footsteps echoed inside. His mother appeared, startled for a moment, then froze, realizing who was standing there. "Seokjin, is that really you?" she whispered, tears already forming in her eyes. Jin smiled softly, his voice barely audible. "I'm home, Mom." Without another word, she wrapped her arms around him, tightly, as if trying to make up for all the years of distance, the birthdays missed, the dinners left empty because her son was somewhere on stage, performing for millions. For a few minutes, there were no words, only silence, broken by quiet sobs and the sound of Jin's heartbeat, steady but trembling. It was in that embrace that something shifted. For the first time in a long while, Jin didn't feel like an idol. He felt human, fragile, loved, and safe. Later that night, he sat with his family in the kitchen, eating homemade soup. His father asked about the world tour, his mother kept refilling his bowl, and his brother quietly listened, occasionally smiling. There was laughter, warmth, and a kind of peace that fame could never offer. Jin later confessed in an interview that this unplanned visit changed him more than any award or concert. He said, "Sometimes you forget who you were before the light. But when I went home that night, I remembered." The story spread quietly among fans who sensed that something about Jin's aura had changed. During his next public appearance, his smile seemed deeper, his words softer. He wasn't just performing anymore. He was feeling. Armies online shared heartfelt messages saying, maybe that's what true success looks like, not trophies, but being able to go home and still be loved the same way. Jin's silent night in Seoul became a symbol of grounding, a reminder that even the brightest stars sometimes need to return to where it all began. And though the world may only see the dazzling lights of fame, behind them was a son who finally found peace in the simplest word, home. As dawn slowly broke over the city, the first light of morning crept through the curtains of Jin's childhood room. The posters on the wall had faded slightly, the old books still lined the shelves, and the guitar in the corner was covered in a fine layer of dust. It was like stepping back into another life, a life untouched by fame, cameras, or pressure. Jin sat by the window, watching the golden sunlight spill across the familiar street outside. He could hear the faint sound of children laughing as they walked to school, the same road he used to take with his brother years ago. It made him smile, a quiet, nostalgic smile that carried both warmth and longing. In that peaceful silence, he picked up the old guitar. His fingers hesitated at first, almost afraid to disturb the calm, but then he began to strum softly, playing a melody that felt like home. The notes were simple, fragile, yet filled with emotion. His mother peeked into the room, not wanting to interrupt, but tears welled up in her eyes as she listened. That melody, Jin would later say, was the seed of something new, a song born not from stage lights or fan chants, but from the stillness of a single night at home. He didn't write it for fame or release schedules. He wrote it because he wanted to capture that feeling, the comfort of belonging, the relief of returning, and the bittersweet truth that no matter how far he goes, part of him will always remain in that quiet house in Seoul. By the time he returned to hide the next week, his team noticed something different. Jin was glowing, not in a glamorous way, but in a peaceful, centered way. When asked what had changed, he simply said, "I went home." Months later, fans began speculating when Jin posted a late-night photo of his family's garden on Weavers with the caption, "Sometimes peace doesn't make noise." The post went viral instantly, with millions of armies leaving emotional messages. Many believed this was the moment Jin truly healed from the exhaustion of years spent under the world's spotlight. Behind the scenes, close staff members revealed that Jin had been working on a new track inspired by that night, something deeply personal and reflective. Rumors began spreading that the song might appear on his upcoming solo project, a piece described as the purest version of Jin yet. The producer who worked with him even said he came to the studio with tears in his eyes. It wasn't sadness, it was peace. He said he wanted to sing what it feels like to be home again. And that's how a single night in Seoul, quiet, unseen, unplanned, transformed into one of the most meaningful moments in Jin's journey. It reminded not only him, but millions of people around the world that even in a life filled with noise and fame, what matters most is something simple: love, family, and the courage to come home. Because for Jin, the brightest spotlight will never outshine the warm light that waited for him by his family's door.